Okay. So today we are talking to Fallon, and many of you do not know that she is actually Baby Jane from an Illinois court case that happened, it was 96? When was it?
The actual battle, I think, started shortly after I was born. It was like 6 months after I was born, so that would have been 1993.
So then describe to us what the court case actually was.
So my biological mom, she had me when she was really young. She was like 18. So she basically she knew she couldn't take care of me, and she decided to give me up to a distant relative. She's like her third cousin, I think. So my cousin also, she decided yes, she would take me in because she actually had one child, but it took like 9 years to have him. So she was glad to take me in. So she did, and then my mother did that kind of without my dad knowing. He knew about me.
So he knew that she was pregnant and that she had you.
Yes.
Okay.
He actually planned it to make it even more just kind of bizarre.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so he wanted to get her pregnant because he wanted a child. He was only like 23 at the time and still in college. And so he did it on purpose, was young, probably not ready to have a kid either. And she, like I said, Carrie took me in, which I'll call her mom throughout this, and it can be confusing.
Right, because that's your mom.
Yes.
Right.
But not my biological mother, who is Amy. So when I mention Amy, she's the one that gave birth to me.
Right.
So yeah, my mom took me in, Carrie, and then my dad found out, and basically that's when the court case started because he wanted custody of me.
So then where did Amy, your biological mom, birth mom, where did she go? Was she still in the area, or did she leave town?
She was still in the area at that time. She was just partying a lot. She was young and was like, I know she was like hanging out with Nickelback for a while. And yeah.
Wow.
Kinda,
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, she was just young and just doing her thing.
Was she still involved in you growing up? Like, would she still come see you or interact with you? Do you remember?
I saw her here and there. So like I lived with her, it would be her grandma, so my great grandma with her, because that's where she lived. And so a lot of the time she would leave. I only know what I know from what people have told me. So my mom, Carrie, has told me that like she would leave for like, a week at a time or whatever and go off and do her thing. And my 80-something-year-old great-grandmother would be the one taking care of me.
God love her.
Yeah.
Wow.
And she was an amazing person. So when we would go to visit my great-grandmother, I would see her here and there.
Okay.
So that was like up until I was around 6. And I don't know when the last time I had seen her was before this year. I was probably 8 maybe.
So then what was your dad's involvement during this time?
So he was actively trying to gain custody of me. Obviously the court battle had been initiated, so they were in and out of court, they being my dad and then the Gingers, so Carrie and yeah.
Because they didn't want to give you up.
They tried to adopt me actually, but then found out that they couldn't legally, I guess, because my dad had already filed custody for me.
And technically, your biological mom had given up her parental rights, but he hadn't given up his.
Right.
Okay.
She had signed her rights away, but he just really wanted me. So he went to court, and that's when the whole battle began. It was 6 years that I lived with the Gingers, and he would meet them places. They would go to like, I don't know, like Chuck E. Cheese, for example, and we would all hang out and have like a visitation that way. They never let him like actually just take me for a weekend.
So he didn't have like
visitation
supervised visitation or anything like that?
No, it was like everybody had to be together because I think they were kind of concerned with maybe his ability to parent.
Right.
And that was part of what was brought into the court case. Yeah.
So, I mean, at what age did you realize that maybe I don't have this traditional family and there's controversy. I mean,
oh gosh, actually pretty young. I feel like I don't know what age I would have been, maybe like 3 or 4, but I asked my mom. I said, "Mom, whose belly did I grow in?" Because I was learning about how that all worked.
Yeah.
And she told me, "Amy," and I cried. I was so devastated by that. And it's funny because when she tells the story, she's like, "For some reason you knew that you couldn't grow in my belly, but you said you wished you would have grown in Grandma Georgie's belly."
Aw.
Yeah, it was like I kind of understood, like she wasn't my biological parent in any way, but I said, "Oh, why couldn't I have grown in Grandma Georgie's belly?" So.
Wow. Wow, and that had to be hard for Carrie to
Oh God.
kind of, communicate with you
Yes.
about,
Yes.
even though, you didn't grow my belly, you're still my child.
I think it was really heartbreaking for her. And now being a mom myself, I just can't even imagine.
Well, that's what I was
going
going to ask you, because part of the reason why I wanted to talk to you, you have this one feeling about your circumstances as being the child, but now you're a mom.
Yeah.
We have baby Knox here. I don't know if you can
Try to
see him.
lift him.
Baby Knox. Yay, he's so cute. So now that you're a mom, I mean, do you have different feelings or?
It's just so mind-blowing. Like, honestly, I just have such, and I always have, but it's just that much more deep, the level of respect I have for my mom. Because, for one, she is the least confrontational person I've ever met. Like, she does everything she can to avoid confrontation. So for her to go through all that time, all that money, all that energy, to go through this court case, to have me, and to be able to keep me in her life is just, that's huge. And then just what she went through. Because once he got custody of me when I was 6, and then it was like every 2 weeks I would
So
get
the
to
court
stay.
did side for him.
Eventually. It
Wow.
took a long time, but, and I'm trying to be somewhat neutral here.
I understand. I
But,
understand. Yeah.
They, in Illinois, the whole thing is they want to keep the biological family together, which I don't necessarily think is always the right thing.
And it doesn't always define your true family.
Right. And it's not what's always best for the child, but that's how it was, at least at the time. I don't know if it's changed since then, but...
So at 6, you had to go live with him.
Yeah.
So, gosh, what was that moment like when you're having to leave the house and the family you've known?
Yeah, it was hard. I remember, like, meeting my dad. I think we met him, like, in Lincoln. And I just remember having to get out of my mom's car and get into his, and I was just bawling, just absolutely bawling. And I was always a mama's girl anyway, so that made it even harder. I couldn't even go to the doctor's office without, like, just hanging on to her for dear life. So it was definitely hard, although I will say, like, I made the transition very, very well for someone who was that attached to their mother. And then he kind of wasn't very sensitive about it either, because I remember, like, the times that I got in his car and my mom drove off and then I was crying and I'd be, like, talking about her or saying stuff about her, and he's like, "You can't call her mom anymore." Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You have to call me dad and your stepmom mom. And basically he would just give me, like, ultimatums. Like, if you do, then you're not going to see them anymore. Like,
And you're
so you
6?
have to. Yes. Yes. So I never stopped calling her mom, which, if he sees this, I don't really care.
Okay.
Because it's just, it's like, it is what it is.
It's how you
at this
feel.
point. Yeah.
It's how you feel.
Yeah. That's how I saw her my whole life, and
So
she
then-
did so much for me, so.
How long did you end up living with him and then just traveling back to Carrie's house? I mean, did you eventually go back to living with her full time?
Oh, no.
So
Well,
that
I mean-
was...
I mean, when I was 18.
Right.
But not, like, as a child. Like, it was... His plan was actually to let me go see her it was every 2 weeks. It would be one weekend every 2 weeks, so not very often. But his plan was to, like, basically wean me off of that. Like, he was trying to make it less and less as time went on. So I think I was like 12 or 13 when he'd talked about it for a long time. And so I had been dreading my 13th birthday. I had feelings that, like, kids shouldn't have to go through, but I just had this feeling of dread every time I thought about it, because he mentioned on and off throughout my childhood how he was gonna write up a new contract when I turned 13. And so she just showed up one day and he had this paper contract all written out, and he's like, here, you need to sign this or we're gonna go back to court, kind of thing. And she and I were both crying, and it was hard. Then it went to like once a month. It was like once a month, and then 6 months out of the year I got to see her for an extra visit for like 3 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. And so that was like from 13 to 18. And so that's how it was until I eventually just up and moved out.
Right. And then where'd you go?
Actually, I moved out secretly because he told me that I wasn't going to leave until he dropped me off at college. And I'm like, nope, that's not going to happen. So I kind of snuck out in the middle of the night one night and left him a note. And that's how that went. But yeah, so I went to stay with a boyfriend at the time. You know, typical 18-year-old girl stuff. So, but in my note, I left him. I pretty much just said, if you want to continue having a civil relationship, get a hold of me when you simmer down and you're able to come to terms with
so
the fact
you're
that
way
I'm
more
left.
mature than he was.
Right.
Okay.
He definitely lacks maturity.
Right. So, I mean, when you think about it, I mean, your concept of family and fatherhood and motherhood completely different than traditional roles.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you think that kind of helped you becoming a mom or having the relationship you have now, or was it hard to trust people? How do you trust people?
I think it is hard. I think I'm still like dealing with things from my childhood for sure.
We all are.
Yeah. And I know that's the
Yeah,
case.
yeah.
Yeah, everybody has things from their childhood that just come back up, but like I find myself, especially now, and I don't know if it's because of having him, I find myself thinking about it constantly and bringing it up and relating things to my childhood constantly. And I think a lot of it is being a mother. I'm just like, and a lot of it is, this is a whole other rabbit hole. But some of the things that my dad did as a parent were very questionable.
Right.
And so I think about those things now, and I'm like, I would never do that as a parent. So, I don't know. It gives me more of a respect for my mother, like I said, and then
who is still in your life big time.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So then what happened to Amy, your biological mom? Is she still in your life?
Yeah, so she, when would it have been? When I was a teenager, she moved out to LA. She was still kind of living that party lifestyle, and she was obsessed with like the band scene and all of that. And so she would communicate with me every once in a while on like Facebook or call or whatever. I mean, I didn't have a problem with that, and I didn't resent her in any way, but you know, I have my mom, and so I don't see her as that. So there wasn't a ton of communication between the two of us. And then she actually recently came back, and she's living in Taylorville now because she has breast cancer. So she's battling with that now, and she came to the hospital and saw Knox, though.
That's what I thought. I mean, is there a level of forgiveness that you have for her, or
yeah,
is that...
actually, I think I'm more appreciative of her now.
Interesting.
Because if it weren't for her, I wouldn't have my mom, who I consider my mom anyway.
Right.
Yeah, and that's how I look at it now. I think when I was living with my dad, I had less respect for her because I heard his side all the time. And he kind of had like ill things to say about her, and you know how that can be. So it's different now, definitely.
Now, is it different because the family that you have now, not only Carrie's family, but then you have this huge Martin family? I mean, was it hard to get used to all of these people?
Yeah.
In this big family?
Yeah, because I wasn't really used to that. I mean, when we got together, it was like on holidays or special occasions. And then here we get together
It's constant.
all the time. But it's really kind of nice because I feel like I have a sense of like a normal family now. Like I get to experience that.
Yeah, right.
And then I get to bring my child into a loving, caring family where I know he's not going to have to deal with any of the things that I did. And so I think that's really special.
Yeah. Because honestly, when I first met you, I don't know how many years ago, I was like, wow, she has really got her shit together. I mean, for your age, you have this level of maturity that I typically don't see. And then once I started to understand what you've been through, I was like, that's what it is. So, yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, because, I mean, crazy way to grow up.
Yeah, it really was.
So what will you tell Knox about your story?
I don't know. It's something I've kind of thought about, you know, all of my life when I have kids, like what's gonna, I don't know. I mean, he's gonna obviously know that I have multiple families and that I love them in different ways, and eventually I think I'll have to explain kind of the whole custody thing when he's a little bit older, but I think when he's younger, like, I don't know, he'll love his grandpa and grandma on both sides, and it will be fine. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. All right, we got to look at Knox one more time.
Okay.
Here, we'll try to bring this down a little bit. Aw, sweet Knox.
He's got his little bear hat on.
Yeah, sweet baby. Yeah, good for you, Fallon. Yeah, because, I mean, your story could have gone a whole other way.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Whole other way. So.
My best friend was always saying, you're so lucky you have Carrie because you could have been a whole different person. So,
well, we appreciate the person you are.
Well, thank you.
All right, well, thanks for sharing.
No problem.
Yeah, we'll have to catch up with you when Knox is older.
Sounds good.
All right, bye.